I just thought I'd mention this. I thought you all might be interested, just basically for general knowledge of something that's happening in America at the moment. Just seeing as though we're on the subject of arrests and Extinction Rebellion people getting arrested and Just Stop Oil people getting arrested and so forth. So they're doing in Atlanta, Georgia in America, which I think it's meant to be the area that, like the Dukes of Hazzard was filmed in, is meant to be Georgia, which is quite ironic with, like Boss Hogg and the police. So the meant to be the government are wanting to build this cop city. Well, it's been nicknamed Cop City, but it's like a massive, huge police training facility, like a massive one, literally like, as big as like some sort of like police town or something, but like a training complex. And a lot of the locals really don't like it, particularly when a lot of the states in America have introduced these robot police now, like the basic versions, like they've got sort of like the early prototype robot police in use and various other and they've got all these crazy laws, like you can't sit on the floor, you're not allowed to sit on the pavement and stuff like that. I think that's in Los Angeles though. But so anyway, they're wanting to stop this cop city, right? Now, it's funny because I was going on about using local referendums because no one ever uses local referendums in England. We always just try and petition the government, because I've been wanting them to try do a local referendum to stop that Stonehenge tunnel. But, they got 200,000 signatures for that Stonehenge tunnel, but to government, if they'd have only got 26,000, they could have had a referendum and gone above the council in the local area and just said that we don't want this tunnel coming through our county. I've actually got a petition going on Wiltshire Council website, but I can't really seem to get people interested in it. You can actually make them shut the council down and completely reform the entire council with only like 26,000 signatures. That would do something to stop these 15-minute cities for sure. But anyway, I actually made quite a lot of fuss about local referendums on and around YouTube, and I'm sure that they picked up on it and they started doing this local referendum. But I can't really claim that. But it was odd that I started going on YouTube and going on about local referendums in certain circles, and then suddenly they started doing this local referendum. But Atlanta, this Georgia county, is meant to be one of the most stringent or toughest petition rules, which I can't see that, because the Constitution in America, federal law, are certain laws that are in place over the whole of America. You've got your state laws, which are like, state law is, like driving with mobile phones. You can in some states, you can't in other states. Or, this is just an example, smoking, you're allowed to smoke inside in some states, but not in other states. Or jaywalking. Some states you're allowed to, walk across the road wherever. In other states, like, there are places you can't. They don't let you walk in the street because it's called jaywalking. Well, that'd be quite funny with Extinction Rebellion if we had, because actually we don't have jaywalking in England with all those slow marches they're doing. That's quite funny. But so, federal law is certain laws that apply to things that it affects the whole of America, laws that apply to every single state. And some of those laws are for petitioning, because the First Amendment, right to petition, Congress shall make no law, for the whole of the country, it is meant to be for the whole of America. So why some states have got, how you could have different laws for petitioning the government in different states, I don't know, even if it's petitioning the local government, because really, you start petitioning the local government, and then, if you don't get any joy with it, then you raise it up to a higher level. But they've got all these rules with this petition they're doing, like you've got to have a witness when people sign it. They're not allowed to publish it in the newspaper, right, because otherwise you could just publish the like petition and then people could cut it out, sign it, and then send it in, right? But then they're saying all these rules like, oh, there's got to be people present. Well, if you sent if you got a printed version in the newspaper with all the like the petition name and number on it and everything like that, all the data on it, right? And you cut it out of the newspaper, and if it's got like enough space under it to get like 6 signatures, so like you take it round to 6 of your neighbours and get them to sign it, then you're the witness, aren't you? So, like, I mean, who else is going to... If you're walking around with it and getting other people to sign it, then someone's witnessing them, aren't they? I mean, or else how does it get round? It seems ridiculous, this... I think that their council is jipping them off to try and stop them from getting all the signatures, because I can't see how, if Congress shall make no law about, petitioning and restrictions and so forth, how can different states have different law for political rights and petitioning? Political rights and petitioning are the same all over America. Fair enough if it's jaywalking or something like that. It's like nothing to do with political rights, is it? So anyway, so what's happening is they really, 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 really don't like this Cop City idea. And it's ironic with, like BentCop.biz, because, like, I've done that BentCop.biz thing with finding out about all the illegal stuff the police have been doing on the roads and highways and the rest of it. And then we all know they're, bringing charges wrongly, that they're doing people for criminal damage when it's not criminal damage, when it's, like, in the Town and Country Planning Act. Like putting up notices, even painting, because it's all that stuff to do with anything that sends a message or an advertisement is in that Town and Country Planning Act. And even it says making a representation in public, which you could say public speaking or possibly even doing like a theatrical presentation if it's a representation, or even a model or, sculptures. It's all covered for in the Town and Country Planning. And what it does is it classifies everything into different classes, and you've got representations as well in public, and it gives you specifications of, what classifies things and what's permitted in sizes and things like that. And then what it comes down to is consent, how you get consent and what consent is. Because if you've got consent, you can do it, right? Now, the thing is, with political things, right, the political things have got a certain identification class, which is exempt from requiring all the permissions. So you automatically get consent, deemed an express consent. And you use an enactment while you're using it, which is the right to petition, which means you can't be prosecuted. So for anything that you're doing in that Town and Country Planning Act that's covered in it, and painting is covered in it in Class C, you're using, you can combine classes as well, it says, right? You can do it. You get consent. That act gives you permission, and you're using the enactment, so you can be prosecuted. So before you even set out to do it, when you say, right, I am going to do this, or we are going to do that for this campaign, you're doing it through something. It's facilitated already. It's through an act. You do it through the act and do what it says you can do in the act where it gives you permission, right? So you've got consent. Now, the thing with criminal damage is, right, what's that got to do with criminal damage? When you've got consent to do what you're doing. Anything that you do, when you've got consent for all these types of notices that you can put up with whatever it is using to put it up, from, screws to sellotape to nails to stick and affix, that is how you put it up when you've got consent, and the Act gives you consent. You can choose what materials you want to use. It says in the law and proceedings that all parties should be on an equal footing. When you're opposing the government and council, you are given the same powers as the government and council to do whatever you feel you need to do to promote it. You're on equal footing with the opposition. and that means you're on an equal footing with the government and the council. The police can't get their heads around this. Oh, I'm on the front line. Ooh, the front line. Well, yeah, we're on the front line when we're opposing the council. It puts us on the front line. The Criminal Damage Act is for breaking and smashing things that aren't meant to send a message or be an advertisement or promote anything, like the thing with Gail Bradbrook is she was actually sending a message. She was doing it to send a message. So it's promo, it's advertisement. She was making a representation in a way. Well, it was an artistic representation. And the argument around Gail's case should have been, is it or is it not an artistic representation? Because if it is, then it comes under the Act and it's not criminal damage anyway. The Criminal Damage Act, firemen cutting roofs off cars is you're cutting a roof off a car. The fireman isn't sending a message to anyone. He's not making a representation or promoting something. He's trying to get someone out of a car by cutting the roof off. It damages the car. Cutting the roof off a car, is damaging the car. But he uses right privilege interest, and he's never ever argued that with a magistrate to see if he can or cannot do that. How far can you go with it or not? Because no one even challenges him on it, But the thing is, I don't know why the police are bringing criminal damage charges when they know very well that all forms of communication, promotion and advertisement are catered for in the Town and Country Planning Act, which gives you consent when it's for political purposes. Why? Because it says it's at Class F and you're using the enactment which prevents them from prosecuting you. You don't ask if you can use the enactment. You don't say, was it proportionate response or not? Was the fireman cutting the roof off the car proportionate response or not? Well, no one asks. No one even asks that under the Criminal Damage Act anyway. But there is no. The thing is, either you're covered by the Act or you're not. You don't ask for permission to use it, or afterwards then they prosecute you and then you say, we have to decide about which proportion or not. Before you do things in the first place, you look to see if you can do it or not. It says you can do it, you get deemed consent because it's for political purposes, and these are all the different things you can do, including making a representation and using paint. Now, whether or not you say, what about, if you chisel a window with a hammer? The thing is, if you're just chiseling the window with a hammer to get into a building, that is, if it's just damaging it for the sake of damaging it or breaking and entering, whatever. But the thing is, if you're communicating a message or making a representation, and then if this is an advertisement, the thing is, if it qualifies for an advert, and if you say that what you're doing is promoting something for an advertisement, then it falls under the Act, and you get protection. Now you might say, well, the thing is, with that Class C, he's talking about parts of the buildings and structures and things like that. You can actually attach things with nails and, hammer nails into things and, attach things to it comes with it. That act means that when you are doing something to fasten an advert on, it can do it. Now, if you're making a representation and part of the representation, you see, this is where the creativity comes into it. And this is where it kind of, if it's deemed an advertisement and a promo, then it's definitely under the Act. I'm quite certain. And the thing is, if it's an advertisement and you got consent, you can't be prosecuted anyway. So it isn't the fact that it's not criminal damage; it's an advert. Even if it wasn't provided for, the thing with that Act is that right to petition, protection, immunity. I've got a representation on immunity as well. You don't need consent, and you're protected with it anyway. The argument is, what's going too far? What is going too far with that right? Like fastening, hammering something on the wall with nails, painting, or now you're smashing a window. You're going too far with these promos, with these, representations. But the thing is, if you look at the police, all the things of the police immunity that are codified into law, The ironic thing is, like, look, for example, at the speeding, right? How, you know, if it would hinder the progress of the vehicle, if it would hinder the progress of the vehicle for the purpose of which it is being used, then the speed limit doesn't have to be observed, right? But how fast can you go over the speed limit? You know, like, you know, the police don't have to observe the speed limit at all. So if they're chasing a criminal, I mean, what's, you know, if it's 30 mile an hour, you know, is he going 40 or 50 or 60, or can he go 100, or, like, you know, how fast does a car go? What's proportionate, you know? I mean, this is it. There is no limit, really. I mean, at the end of the day, if the car will do 300 mile an hour, there's nothing, there's no stopping him doing 300 mile an hour. But yeah, that could be insanely dangerous. But legally, you know, there is no number. So the ironic thing with the right to petition really is, you know, what can you and can't you do, or you know, how much of the wall do you want to paint, or how big do you want to paint the logo on the wall? And the thing is, that's tough. It says you can't be prosecuted, and either it is an advertisement or it isn't. So it's almost like, you know, how fast? Who's going to challenge the police? How fast can he go? You know, who's measuring how far over the speed limit he goes? Now, you might say, oh, you know, he's on the front line for his job, he's on training. Well, where on the front line? You take up the line, you take up the law, the legislation, you take up the front line when you want to challenge the government on a serious matter. That's the thing, you know.